Hello and welcome to Spotlights. It's the podcast for the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology. And I'm really excited this week to welcome onto the show Tyler Nelson. Tyler, thank you so much for making time for us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Sam.
It's really a treat. And for people who are really in the know about the team for the Forum on Religion and Ecology, they might know your name already because you're really integral to what the team is about, especially a new website that's been launched, a whole new project called Living Earth Community, which is really exciting. I want to get into that. But first, I always want to hear like your origin story. You know, when you think of superheroes, like how did Batman become Batman? And how did Superman become Superman? How did Tyler Nelson become Tyler Nelson? So what are you up to now, and how did you get there? Because of course, for a lot of people still, kind of sadly, the idea of blending religion and ecology is counterintuitive. You're either going to do religion and get into otherworldly pursuits, or you're going to do ecology and be interested in science or policy or activism or whatever. How did you get into a space where those two things meshed for you?
Hmm. Great question. The origin story. Yeah. Uh, well, currently, what I'm doing, so I started as a research associate with the Forum on Religion and Ecology. Had a really incredible year working on a remarkable team, yourself included, doing this Living Earth Community project. And just recently was made the program director of Living Earth Community. So we're at this point of imagining what's next. How do we make this incredible resource more accessible to people? Um, I also work at a local community radio station. We're non-commercial, so I like to say we play what we want and say what we want.
Yeah.
But the whole point is to provide a platform for local community voices to have a way of amplifying their justice work and the things that are valuable to them. Um, I also have a radio show on there, which I can mention later on, but it's called Earth Mixtape. And it's a soundtrack for climate change, essentially. Um, yeah, well, before getting more into what I'm doing now, let's go backwards.
Yeah.
I often joke and say that I was born inside a Coleman camping tent. My parents were huge into camping and road trips and going to state parks and national parks. Um, I grew up in Minnesota, so the land of deep forests and blue skied. Or what is that? Minnesota means the land of sky tinted waters. So
Oh.
to be in a place that is the land of 10,000 lakes, but we're just really modest. We actually have 20,000. To give you a sense of the kind of ecosystem here, there's boreal forest, there's savanna, there's bluff country, there's some original prairie that's being restored right now. And that was my whole upbringing was outdoors. My mom ran a daycare, so we would go to nature centers. We would go to the pond and forest in our backyard. And at parks, we would do junior ranger programs. So my parents really encouraged my two siblings and I to pay attention to the world around us, to learn about it, and also to care for it. And so growing up in this way allowed me to have many different encounters with the more than human. It also, um, looking back, it allowed me to have spaces to encounter the divine. Of course, 5-year-old Tyler didn't have words for that.
Right.
But when I was young, I knew that something special was happening,
Mm.
or different experiences were very meaningful to me. As I grew older, I went into art and design school
Hmm.
up in the North Shore of Minnesota. I ended up dropping out. This was around the time of the recession,
Right.
around 2007, 8, and so. And I made a turn into horticulture.
Hmm.
So I had a career in horticulture business in a large scale greenhouse in Minnesota. So I
Oh.
learned to care for plants, care for people, and all the while this was at a time of my own personal recovery from mental health crises.
Hmm.
This is something that I grew up with since the age of at least 6
Hmm.
and continue to live with today. It's like a grouchy neighbor next door. Like we know where the property line is. Let's just do our own thing.
Right.
But yeah, through those years, it was really wonderful to have plants and plant-loving people around me as I was continuing to heal and restore.
Hmm.
I had a pretty wild encounter, a spiritual encounter one day in the kitchen of my St. Paul apartment.
Hmm.
And I could not for the life of me describe what happened other
Hmm.
than my inner experience of that.
Hmm.
And that was a huge turning point in my life. All of a sudden I had massive questions about who is God? What is God? What's the spiritual life about? I grew up in a conservative evangelical culture, which
Hmm.
was very loving to one another within their own communities,
Right.
and also presented other issues as well. So I had many questions trying to reconcile my love for the more than human world and also these spiritual encounters,
Hmm.
as well as these questions of faith and religion and spirituality that s- didn't seem to be welcome in many of the spaces I was used to.
Right.
So, what does a person do? They go and get a degree in theology. So that's what I
Right.
did. I went to Whitworth University in Washington State
Hmm.
and really enjoyed my time there with Jonathan Moo, who continues to be a mentor in my life. He's a New Testament scholar, has a background in biology as well.
Oh,
And he really helped me to understand. Uh, well, the way that he put it is I had an intuitive and personal understanding of these things,
hmm.
but by studying these, it helped me to develop the language to begin expressing and articulating it.
Right.
So that was helpful. Uh, and stop me if I'm going too long here. You
Oh
got the
no, this
origin
is great.
story.
No, no, I love
Okay.
it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always so curious about these things because you see people doing amazing work and you're like, how did you get here? Especially when it's work like this. I mean, even like talking about this professor and you're like, well, background in biology, but New Testament studies. These are things that a lot of people aren't bringing together. And so yeah, always happy to hear like, how did these things come together for you?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And I mentioned um, Dr. Moo, and I'll be mentioning many other people in this conversation, I'm sure, because um, I'm so grateful to have had so many mentors and figures in my life who have not only taught me, but challenged me and
Mm,
invited me into this conversation that, like you just said, isn't the most common
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
And yet, once we enter this interdisciplinary dialogue, oh man, the places we can go with it.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
our way into the future in a lot of respects. And
that's
so
right.
so that was your undergrad. I also appreciate that you're staying in northern latitudes, from Minnesota over to Washington, not going too far south.
That's right. I'm a
Staying pretty.
snowman. I'll melt if I go, below the Great Plains.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the opposite in a lot of respects. 'Cause I was born in Arizona, grew up in Texas, been living in California for like 20 years. And so yeah, I feel like the opposite. I would freeze and I'm very brittle. I would break in half. So lots of
Right.
respect for folks who are living in those northern latitudes.
Well, I'm so happy for you. You can keep that.
Yeah,
You
right.
stay there. I'll be up here where it snows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple more points so I graduated with an undergrad around 30. Then I
Ah.
met my wife. We married at the foot of a mountain, and then
Um,
COVID hit. And
oh, right.
during the time of COVID, we actually returned to the greenhouse that I had worked at before.
Hmm.
And during that time, I dove even further into these studies. I was really, really interested in not only Christian eco-theology, and
Hmm.
the different texts and traditions or lack thereof in that area,
Right.
but also looking at other wisdom traditions who were presenting alternatives to the ways of being that were around us. And
Right.
we could even say that contributed to or caused the pandemic itself.
Right.
And so during that time, I had moments to reflect. I'm working
Hmm.
with plants. I'm working with tree huggers. So I'm reading many different texts, and I came across two books that were really formative for me.
Hmm.
Rooted in Rising, which was a volume edited by Margaret Bullitt Jonas and Leah Shade, and then Words for a Dying World by Hannah Malcolm. And
Hmm.
Margaret Bullitt Jonas is an Episcopal Reverend. Leah Shade is in the Lutheran tradition, as well as a scholar. Hannah Malcolm at the time was um, she was an Anglican. How is this? She was doing her doctoral work in
Hmm.
Anglican studies while also going through the ordination process.
Oh.
And the thing that these books drew together was climate grief, climate
Hmm.
emotions, the spiritual, physiological, and psychological challenges that people are facing from different traditions. So
Yep.
Rooted in Rising brought together religious and spiritual traditions. Words for a Dying World brought in a global perspective. And at that point, I said, I'm going to study this.
Hmm.
So when I go to Yale Divinity School, which I had been accepted to, I'm going to look into climate chaplaincy.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that led to my time with the BTS Center, who I continue to partner with now. They develop resources and explore what it means to be spiritual leaders in a climate changed world. And then, well, I'm talking a lot about the background.
Yeah.
I'll just wrap up and say I had many wonderful experiences at my time at Yale Divinity School with professors like Willie James Jennings, Carolyn
Uh,
Sharp, Jennifer Hurt, who helped to expand my understanding of creaturely theology and spirituality. But
nice.
then also encountering texts and voices who were challenging many of the narratives, the symbols, the logics that I grew up being familiar with, and that were also impacting my human neighbors and my more than human neighbors.
Right.
And so engaging, Dorothy Sola, who speaks of
Hmm.
mystical tradition, mystical journey of today, but from a radical, liberative, ecofeminist perspective, or Latin American and Black American liberation theologies. Um, Reverend Dr. William Barber came in at that time when I was
Hmm.
a student, and so public policy and public theology really came alive to me. And so, eco justice, climate grief, more than human or multi species politics, and so on. This was really just a formative time when I sensed that there was a possible trajectory forward for this vocation I felt called to.
Yeah, that's all my favorite things that you're listing. I mean, especially I mean, to my mind, still to this day, even after decades of this kind of work, I feel like people doing eco theology and folks doing more like public theology, liberation theology, I feel like there's still a divide there. And so, somebody like you who's integrating all of these different voices into your personal vocation, I think that's exactly the right way to go. And sometimes I hear people say amazing things about eco theology. I'm just waiting for them to mention liberation theology, and they don't, and I get severely disappointed. And so,
Yep.
yeah, the way that all wraps together for you, I mean, that yeah, really speaks to my own heart and my own path. And because it's easy to get cynical about academia, and then sometimes you see people who found the right way in. And I feel like that's exactly what you're speaking to, where it's something that m matters personally to you, but also is integrating the most important issues of the day. Well, and of course, Yale Divinity School, at a certain point, you're meeting Mary Evelyn Tucker and John Grimm. And so, how did you get involved with the Forum on Religion Ecology? This is our podcast, right? And so, got to
Mhm.
hear that because apparently you got involved with those folks. And then this amazing website, this whole new project, the Living Earth Community Project. So what was your road into that stuff?
I intentionally did not list them because
Yeah.
I figured you would ask.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know it was
Yeah.
coming.
That's right. So when I was doing my undergrad and digging into environmental ethics, religion and ecology, eco-theology, and so on, I kept noticing this name or these two names in
Right.
the forewords or the prefaces of
Right.
books. So I wondered, who is this Mary Evelyn Tucker? Who is this John Grimm? They are saying some things that are really incredible. I want to know them.
You're
And
right.
so um, yeah, I guess I have that 110% kind of personality where if there's a goal I set and I'm committed to it, I run for it.
Nice.
So when I was applying to master's programs, Yale Divinity School was near the top.
Hmm.
Um, it was between Yale and Duke, because
Hmm.
Duke had a strong agrarian program, but
Right.
Yale had the religion and ecology, not only program, but the founders, we could say,
Right.
um, people who are so foundational to the field.
Yeah.
So, Mary Evelyn Tucker and John Grimm, as soon as I arrived in New Haven, I sent them emails and said, "Hi, I'm Tyler. Can we meet for coffee or tea?"
Nice.
And you know them. They are such gracious, generous people and always welcoming. Um, we could sit and listen to them talk for days on end, and they still would have more to say.
Yeah.
And yet, they care so much for each person by them that they were more curious about me than I was of them, which is really hard to do because I was fascinated.
Right.
So anyhow, as I did my degree, I made sure to keep in touch with them and just really enjoyed the mentorship that each of them provided, the perspectives that they would bring into our conversations. And then as I was graduating with my MDiv, I was out to eat with both of them for a delicious Italian meal here in New Haven. Really good Italian food here. And Mary Evelyn turns to me and asks, "So, what is it that your research has been involved in lately?" And we had a great conversation about um, multi-species relationship, creaturely spirituality. Um, I forget exactly how I was phrasing it, but much of my work touches on like radical and imaginative eco-theologies. So deep incarnation, deep resurrection. I'm a big sucker for animal studies, posthumanism, and so on.
Right.
And so I was explaining all of this to her, and she said, "Well, we have a project in mind, and we would all like to have a discussion to see what this could turn into."
Hmm.
And before I know it, I'm meeting with the rest of the forum team and just brought invited into this incredibly friendly, um, I think refreshing is the word I would say, a
Hmm.
refreshing community of people who are involved in academia and yet are intentional about embodying the values that aren't necessarily found in academia.
Right.
So that was really lovely. Um, and then Living Earth Community Project became something that I was involved with as the early stages with Oliver Mesmer, Mary Evelyn, and John, of course. Um, and then I got a job at a local refugee and resettlement agency.
Hmm.
And that was such a pressing issue at the time that I went to work there. And then the new administration came in.
Right.
Uh, we can fill in the blanks there. And I was one of the rounds that was laid off.
Yeah.
And the very week that I was, Mary Evelyn and John met me at the graduate conference on religion and ecology here
Hmm.
at Yale. And they said, "Well, Living Earth Community is going so well. Would you like to join us again?" And again, just showing how generous they are. And so I hopped on the board or hopped on the team and, Sam Mickey, Sam King, Anna Thurston, Tara, Elizabeth, the names go on of people who I've heard of or known for years and really admired the work that each of you do. And and here I was able to join you to uh, realize this really far out project. I think that's how I describe it. It's far out. It's
Yeah.
outside the box, but it's inside the sphere. It's inside the Earth, we could say.
Oh, nice. I like that. I'm definitely going to use that in the future. Outside the box, but inside the sphere. That's
It's
good.
yours.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, no, that's really good. That's a great way of describing it. And yeah, I appreciate, everybody on the team. You're mentioning, Elizabeth McAnally, Anna Thurston, Sam King, amazing, amazing folks. But to my mind, when I think of Living Earth Community, the website, the whole project, you seem really central to it and integral to it. Like, there's all kinds of parts that make like a car drive, but then there's the engine, and I feel like there was something about the energy that you brought to this project that really made it happen. The rest of us, to our own devices, I don't think it would have happened. There was something about it where you had a passion for this work and also an intellect that could handle how capacious you have to be to think about living Earth community, the science, the religion, the politics. There's so many different things going on. So when I think of this project, I really think of you and the work that you brought to it. So immense gratitude to what you've brought to it, because the rest of us kind of, even at our best, I don't think we were going to bring something like this forward. But you had a certain passion for it, and again, the intellect to handle this kind of material because it's complicated. There's so much to think about. I mean, it's the planet. There's a lot going on, and
Mhm.
so immense gratitude for what you've done. And of course, if folks listening or watching haven't checked it out yet, livingearthcommunity.com. It's really easy to access. Amazing website. But for people who don't know about it, what exactly have you been part of building? What is Living Earth Community?
Mm. Yeah. First off, I want to thank you for those kind words. Um, perhaps if the team was a bicycle, maybe I was a chain.
There you go.
That every others have their essential components, and maybe I just help link a couple things together. I don't know, but certainly the team. I admire each person on that so much, and Tara's leadership with that as well had been so crucial. Mary Evelyn and John, they're in the lineage of Thomas Berry and Teilhard de Chardin, and they really had the vision for it. So
Right.
just want to honor each person with that. So Living Earth Community, thanks for plugging the URL.
Yep.
In case someone didn't hear, livingearthcommunity.com. Check it out after this podcast episode or pause it and then go
Right.
and check it out and come
Right.
back and then hear the description. Yeah. So um, I like to think of it as a website and as a vision.
Mm,
So the website is, I think, a bit more tangible in that it's a virtual knowledge commons that combines um, these really valuable resources from different fields, different areas, even different hemispheres and continents. And it's under this idea that the living Earth community is every person, every life, and possibly every subject that exists on this planet. And I should not just on, but within and as this planet.
mm,
And so the Living Earth community comes from, well, one of the large influences is Thomas Berry, of course,
yeah.
and his phrase that the world is a communion of subjects, not just a gathering of objects.
Yeah.
And then there's much that we all have learned from different indigenous traditions and perspectives as well on the personhood, the life force, or even the anima that is within every being on Earth. And so, um, and many different religious traditions also have their views on this, for and against, which is why we have
Hmm.
this resource.
Right.
So there's three main branches of the living Earth community. There's the intelligences of nature, there's ecological worldview, and there's earth law. The intelligences of nature is where modern scientific literature has been gathered on the intelligences of the more than human world. And this includes the agency or the ability to make decisions for one's health, the sentience of the more than human. So how a member of the flora, the fauna, or the fungi kingdoms might respond affectively to the environment around them or the relationships which they are within. And so the intelligences of nature gives a sense of we're sort of mapping out the landscape of contemporary Western science
Right.
in these areas. Then ecological worldviews is how different people are responding to this world. So we've got it separated into categories like new animism or living cosmology, pantheism, nature religions, nature therapy, wonder and awe. So these different ways of perceiving the different way they're different modes of perceiving the ways of being and knowing that are demonstrated in the more than human world.
Mm.
Of course, the forum website has so many resources on monotheistic religions, indigenous Southeast Asian religions, and so on. And so, what Living Earth Community does is bring this down to the ground, bring it
Mm.
to earth-based spiritualities and philosophies and
Mm.
perceptions. Then Earth Law, the third branch, is the now what branch. I think of it as. So we've got the science. Oh, we've got the understanding. Now
Hmm.
what?
Hmm.
Well, here we have this stunning, breathtaking world that is filled with different beings, different life forms, different subjects, each one expressing and experiencing life and community in their own ways. Earth law is a way that we can not only celebrate the biodiversity of the planet, but we can begin taking action to change constitutions, like we're seeing happen in Ecuador, or just this last week in Peru. There was a new declaration, the Satipo Declaration of Rights for the native stingless bee. Uh, so we go down the list. There's so many different ways to approach like this question of what do we do? And Earth law is a key component of that because that can work within existing legal structures, but also challenge and innovate and offer alternatives to that. So we're seeing rivers like the Wanganui receive legal personhood. We're seeing forests like the Los Cedros cloud forest in Ecuador being viewed as having rights. So Earth law is really the rights of nature movement, broadly speaking, as well as other legal theories and approaches to providing substantial care for our Earth community members.
Yeah, I like that way of describing it. The now what? Yeah, the science is there, the understanding is there, the religions, the philosophies. Like, and so what are we doing? Then you get these legal frameworks. Yeah, which I appreciate also that you're mentioning that it's more than just rights. There's so many different legal frameworks for thinking of it, so many different forms of governance. And overall, one of the things I like about this whole project is it makes me feel optimistic about the future, which,
Yeah, yeah.
there's all kinds of things you can look at that do not make me feel optimistic. And then there's this kind of project. I'm like, okay, people are doing it. Things are changing, and they're changing pretty rapidly, in a great way. So I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit, because this is an amazing project by itself. But when you think about the historical moment that it's situated in, the evolutionary moment, ecological moment, like this seems needed now, maybe more than ever. So why is this so important? Why? Because, especially, mentioning the URL and things like, why would anybody click on this? Like, why now? When there's so much else going on, the world is just so complicated, lots happening. Why is this so important right now?
Mm. Right. Right. A few thoughts come to mind, and I really
Mm,
appreciate you asking that question because
mm,
I believe one of the greatest follies that humans are guilty in is pretending that we are somehow outside of history, that we are
right.
somehow the exception to all other humans through all time, as well as all other subjects. So recognizing our time and place is so critical right now. And you know, maybe this goes slightly against my climate chaplaincy training, or maybe it's because of this training that I'll just be blunt and say that we are experiencing early stage climate collapse.
Right,
We are living through the sixth great extinction event. You know,
right.
we're at a moment in Earth history, not even human history, but Earth history, where a single species, the actions of a single species are on the same level as an asteroid, on the same level of a volcanic explosion that transforms, almost terraforms a planet
Right.
in very destructive, disruptive ways. So I say that, and maybe listeners right now are going, "Oh boy, I need to turn this off." Like that, hearing that it brought up something within me that I don't want to feel right now.
Yeah.
This, whether it's anxiety, anger, sorrow, some of these new words like solastalgia, this longing for a time, longing for a way that a place used to be but no longer is,
Yeah.
so on. But I think it's really important that we grapple with this reality because it's the reality. We when the reality, whether past or present, are ignored, that allows for harmful, even deadly ideologies, frameworks, and approaches to continue to move
Yeah.
forward into the future.
Right.
It allows for the lineage of injustice to continue to be perpetrated. And so, in order to look at a future where the not only our own species, which we have enough problems as it is, right? Um,
Right.
there's much to do within our own species, but
Yeah.
also the more than human world. We've got to act. We need to act, and so the sooner that we do, the more opportunity we have to creatively and collaboratively imagine new futures, create new futures. And so, where the Living Earth community comes into this is that there is enough there's enough reason to experience wonder at the world around us, the
Mm,
natural world. But that's not enough.
right.
Recognizing some sort of romantic environmentalism is great. And like I will read the romantics and the transcendentalists till the day I die. Like I love their poetry and their prose. Um, they were a big influence on me in my early 20s as well.
Mm,
Um, but we've got to go beyond that and
mm,
and not just changing legal structures, not just changing law, but changing culture and the values that we hold individually and as a collective.
right.
And so Living Earth Community is showing a way that we can partner wonder and celebration of biodiversity with action to not only recognize the integrity, but protect and seek the well-being of the more than human. I think another thing too that Living Earth Community is offering people at this time is a model for how to have dialogue.
Hmm.
And we continue to be in a culture that is influenced by colonialism and white supremacy and um, a an economic system that views the earth as unlimited and
Right.
resources to be exploited. Androcentrism and patriarchy. We go down the list. There are these logics, these ideologies, these stories that are framing some lives as more valuable than others,
Right.
some lives as not even in relationship with others.
Right.
And we could look at the Great Chain of Being as well, which is a 2,000-year tradition of seeing the divine as the peak of this chain, and then you've got light-skinned man, and then light-skinned women, and then you've got there's a stratification and a hierarchy of relationship
Right.
and value that's baked into that. And so these isms that I just listed are similar in that they present a really flawed, harmful, and deadly form of relationship or lack of relationship. Living Earth community is saying, hold up now, we are intrinsically in relationship.
Right.
Uh, I couldn't exist if it weren't for the billions of microbial life beings in my gut biome right now.
Right.
I couldn't exist if there were not other humans who were laboring in the soil. If the soil wasn't filled with life-giving creatures, if the water cycle, and on and on and on, ecological relationship, and then dialogue across differences too. So
Mm.
having an interdisciplinary conversation is so critical so that lawyers can speak to religious leaders
Right.
or scientists who have been trained in the ways of Western methodologies and epistemologies can sit at a table with those coming from, say, an indigenous cosmology or a different ecological worldview. So this is, I think of it as a large banquet table, and
Mm.
everyone's bringing a dish to share because who doesn't like a good potluck? And we're learning to share with one another in conversation and offer the best that we have, so that everyone at the table can continue to have another meal tomorrow.
Mm.
And if we are not learning to do that, if we are not examining and changing our value systems as a collective,
Right.
if we're not learning to view relationships in ways that are reciprocal and honor the integrity of one another,
Mm.
then the course we are currently on for the future is even more difficult to consider
Yeah.
than we want. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Planetary potluck. Uh,
That's it. That's
that's a
it.
great way to think about it. Yeah, I
Mhm.
like that a lot. That puts it in and I think a perfect perspective. And I like how you started out with the really harsh reality of climate collapse, mass extinction. I feel like even all the talk about climate change is often a mask for this terrible fact of the sixth mass extinction event. We haven't seen something like this for 65 million years. And so like, ooh, that's rough. I'm like, all right, let's get the bad news out first. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it is that severe, and here's how we can cope with it, and here's how we can actually make a good world amidst the ruins of this kind of collapsing civilization. Of course, the thing for Thomas Berry and Brian Swimme was the Cenozoic era is over, right?
Mhm.
65 million years, it's over. They're like, well, that doesn't mean it has to be mass extinction. It could be that we transition toward an ecozoic era. And I feel like Living Earth Community is exactly the kind of hub that people can go to nourish themselves on the kind of ideas and values and legal systems and governmental systems that we need to make our way into that kind of ecozoic era. But yeah, I appreciate especially your ambivalence. This is either going against my work as a climate chaplain, or it's exactly because of it. I'm not sure if it's for it or against it. Like, yeah,
Right.
I think that ambivalence is exactly the right. That's the mood of our time.
Mhm.
That kind of ambivalence.
Yeah.
And yeah, just really appreciate that. And that being said, it's a beautiful website. It's also very intriguing. There's something about it that kind of makes you want to click through, and it's enjoyable because I'm, a very academic, what do you call it, nerd or dork? I'm not sure exactly.
A word
So,
nerd, maybe.
yeah, right. And so, seeing something like this that's also appealing and vibrant and beautiful and enjoyable. I think that's exactly right. You know, we have to make it fun, and I think this material does that very well. Um,
Mm.
well, you know, so
If
along
I
those
could add
lines,
to that real quick.
yeah, please.
Yeah, two things to comment. Uh, One is that I hope the listeners of this podcast will read your overview essay because you do such an excellent job of articulating what the Living Earth Community website and the vision for this world are. And I believe you describe it also as an invitation. It's an
Mm,
invitation, which I think is what we need right now. It's not fundamentalist beating over the brow of,
right.
you must change, you must do this, you must think this, but instead it's an invitation to dialogue and to rather than having, different people face to face butting heads.
Yeah,
Instead, we're standing side by side, looking at this, going, "Huh, what do you think about that? This river means a lot to you. It means a
right,
lot to me. How do you perceive this river? How do you relate to this river?
right.
Um, Maybe we should do something to protect it because there's a copper sulfide mining operation that's threatening to poison this entire watershed for the next 600 years. We don't
Right.
want that. But in order to change the mechanisms of the state and law to protect it, there's got to be a
Right.
shift of the heart, a shift of the values, and shift of relationships. And
Hmm.
so by you describing this as an invitation, I think from the very get-go, you frame it as an exercise in relationship.
Mm. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know where I came up with that terminology. I would blame you and the rest of the team because I feel like I didn't come up with invitation, but I heard enough people saying it.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I disavow any acclaim given to me at any given point. Uh,
If you're going to blame the team for that language, then the team can easily blame you for editing the volume Living Earth Community,
right,
the
that's true.
anthology from
That's
the
true.
the wonderful conference you all had in, was that 2018?
Yes, yeah,
Uh,
Conference 2018, and the book came out in 2020, a few months after the pandemic hit. So yeah, it was a special kind of emergence during a very, very tough time. So yeah,
mm,
appreciate that. Appreciate the shout out to the book, because that was, of course, one kind of moment of concrescence in what's been a long, long journey, of course, because people have been thinking about this stuff for decades upon decades, millennia upon millennia.
mm,
But yeah, that was a special book. So yeah, even then, I was like lead editor, but Mary Evelyn and John were also editing it. But the amazing conference contributors. So yeah, people can blame me all they want for things. I'm like, no, it's all the other people I'm listening to. It's all our
mm,
relations, right? And that's kind of what Living Earth Community is about, is celebrating all these relationships and learning how to turn toward right relationships. So yeah, I appreciate that a lot, and really just yeah, couldn't be happier about the way that you're contributing to all this, because it's really really amazing, and it takes a lot to hold all this, including the climate grief, like thinking about you know, ecological grief, soul nostalgia, as you mentioned, things like that. It's you know, it's very emotionally heavy, and so to face all that and still find some kind of positivity, I think is just, it's, you know, one of the toughest things right now. And so yeah, couldn't be more grateful to be part of this team, and to know you and be part of this work. And also, you know, my ongoing thing is just like you were saying with the what, you know, the rights of nature kind of earth law stuff. It's like, well, what now? Okay, so we think all this stuff, well, what now? So Living Earth Community is a website, beautiful, engaging, a nice invitation into all kinds of great work. What now? What's next for you? In the short term, medium term, long term, you know, whatever it is. But I'm so curious about kind of what where your sights are set now. What's gonna come of this, especially knowing that you're kind of lead person for Living Earth Community. What are you thinking? What's gonna be next?
mm, mhm. It's amazing how such a substantial question can be just 2 words long. What now?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Uh, First off, I am thrilled about the Living Earth community. All through the year-long development of this website, the language of gestating, of
Mhm.
birthing, of a very like lovely, nurturing language was used to describe its development and coming into being. October 1st, it was birthed, we could say.
Right.
And now it's available, open source, accessible to all people with an internet connection. And there's so much to do with it now.
Hmm.
Now it's, you know, partnering with organizations such as Earth Law Center or the Center for Biodiversity. We could go down the list. There's only 270 pages on the bibliography of works. So and 1700 or so curated on the website itself.
Right.
So there's so many people and organizations already engaged in this work. And it's been a delight to be able to platform what they are doing and to celebrate their work and their examples. And so now one of the things that we're looking towards is to continue partnering with them, amplifying what they're doing, and then pointing the visitors to the website to these other folks so they can see examples of what some are doing in Earth Law
Mm.
or in I just spoke with a gentleman the other day who's doing financial consulting from an animistic perception.
Right.
There are so many scientists engaged in this work. Excuse me. And so, what I'm excited to see is how we can provide blogging or social media. We have a remarkable social media leader, Nikki Woods, as well as Fatima. We've got a new person, Katie Grosh, on board,
Mm.
and they are reaching broader and broader audiences through different social channels, and that's been fun to see. Um, really, it's getting the word out there, putting this in front of people, and then encouraging them and inviting them to bring one element, 2 elements into
Mm.
their own work, into their own lifestyle, um, or just one question from
Mm.
this that they can chew on moving forward. I didn't mention before, but the Living Earth Community website has all sorts of media options. So there
Right.
are books, there are reports like in Ecuador, I believe we have on there the constitutional change that occurred in 2008, giving nature legal rights.
Right.
There are articles, journals, anthologies. We've got videos on YouTube, lecture series, links to other resources, as well as spotlighting engaged projects such as animal sentience laboratories or nature education modules, and so on. So there's such a vast amount of resources here that others have put so much time and effort into to create.
Yeah.
And we now are in this position of gratitude that we can share this with other people. So that's one thing that I'm really excited about is just um, creating more ways to put this into the hands of others
Mm.
and entrust them to be doing the good work and the good trouble
Mm.
to create this future of well-being, of reciprocity, of care for one another.
Mm.
Some other things too that are on the horizon, since what now is such a big two-worded question.
Yep.
The some of the other work I'm engaged in is still along the lines of climate chaplaincy,
Mm.
climate emotional care, but bringing in a political, sometimes a radical, other times a creative, weird, experimental edge to it. So I'm currently working with a design team at the BTS Center, who is, as you know, they're a really wonderful organization in Portland, Maine, They were a 199-year-old seminary, Bangor Theological Seminary, and realized that the religious landscape and the social and ecological landscape of the nation is changing so much that they too ought to pivot and reimagine
Hmm.
what it can be um, em- to encourage and resource and equip faith leaders and community leaders to then empower their own communities for this time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm on this design team working out what public rituals look like in this
Hmm.
time. So it could be, we look at like Extinction Rebellion and the Red Rebels and how they are doing a form of ritual in their processions. Or
Hmm.
November 30th coming up is the Remembrance Day for Lost Species. And there are people around the world who are experimenting with theater, art, music, different spiritual practices, and so on. So that's exciting. And then I continue to, it's interesting that the themes of our lives, right?
Hmm.
Um, when I was sharing my origin story earlier, there was art and there was music, there was
Right.
nature, there was outdoor rec, there were so many things. And they come and go in my life. And in the last couple of years, I found music and art and design just bursting forth once
Hmm.
again.
Hmm.
And so I now work at a radio station, like I said, and
Right.
I'm building relationships to empower local communities, excuse me, strengthen local communities and support the station. And I now have a show of my own called Earth Mixtape. And it's the soundtrack for cultivating resilience, resistance, and restoration in a climate changed world. And I'm DJ Rusty Loon, the gnome from the north. I'm 5'5", so it fits, right? And it's my own sort of experiment of how, like, is there a way to bring in music and sound composition to facilitate through radio these sort of eco-chaplain practices?
Right.
So how to talk about climate anxiety, but also complicate that sort of idea. How can we discuss here in the East Coast sea level rise and the challenges that it's bringing economically? How do
Hmm.
we talk about the rise of techno-feudalism, Christo-fascism,
Right.
eco-fascism, and so on, but through music
Right.
and bringing the local community into that? The last one I'll say, it's more of a grounded example. I can talk about music and arts and chaplaincy and ideas, but I've started to partner with musicians and artists and community leaders this past year
Hmm.
to begin creating public events,
Hmm.
very similar to this public ritual initiative with the BTS Center. So right now, there's an artist in Virginia, musician in Virginia, Daniel Bachman, who is exploring the stories told by trees using biodata sonification technology.
Oh.
So translating the process of breathing of trees into data and then translating that through a synthesizer to amplify the actual life breath of a tree.
Wow.
And as the different biochemical changes take place through the leaves and through its surfaces, the tone and the texture of the sound changes,
Hmm.
which is so fascinating to me because
Yeah.
when an eclipse is coming, trees change their own frequencies, their own um, I'm still learning the terminology, the biochemical processes
Right.
before the eclipse even happens because they sense something is occurring. So this
Right.
ties back to Living Earth community of
Yeah.
subjects that have their own ways of being, their own ways of knowing, their own ways of relating and expressing their life.
Right.
And so this musician, Daniel Bachman, and I are hoping to bring this in as a public event, also weaving together the stories told by trees, such as the American basswood in Charlottesville, that
Hmm.
1924 was planted as a dedication to the Robert E. Lee Confederate Monument. Then in
Oh,
2017, witnessed the violence of white supremacists during the Unite the Right rally about the same monument. The
wow.
tree had witnessed the whole thing.
Wow.
Or I could go on and on about these different experimental, you know, out of the box, inside the sphere uh, projects. But yeah, I'm just really excited because I think part of one of the central things that we'll need in our toolkit is imagination
Yes.
and um, the different hegemonies, the different like monocultures that are so prolific through capital colonialism or white supremacist systems, different religious hegemonies, and so on. They squash the imagination
Yeah.
and don't allow folks to practice what we were born with as children.
Yeah.
So finding ways to practice imagination and I believe that's one of the valuable resources that each of us has in order to imagine possible futures, but also reimagine or imaginatively engage existing ways of being from different cultures and traditions and species. So
Right.
that's Living Earth Community is again, to bring it back to that, I think very imaginative, but also tangibly rooted in the earth itself and in the ways that we humans are seeking to respond to a community that's multi-species, that's multimodal, and that in many ways, um, I heard a great line earlier. We're
Mm.
all equal, but some of us do things better. And so other species, you know, Homo sapiens, we call ourselves the wise monkey, right? But there are others that demonstrate ways of being that I think we could really learn from
Yeah.
and celebrate and protect. So, long answer
Yes.
to your short question, Sam.
Well, beautifully said. And yeah, I think in terms of like migratory intelligence, like the humpback whale, I think is smarter than I am. I need GPS and Google Maps or whatever.
Yeah.
As smart as we are, yeah, other species. And I also gotta say, I really appreciate the way you bring art and music in particular into what you do, because that's kind of my background was really more in music than anything. And so always appreciate those connections. And I have listened to one of your shows, and it's great. So yeah, big shout out to Rusty Loon, the Gnome of the North. We'll have to put a link in the show notes and stuff, so people can find that because it's great and it's just fun. And I know you had Dell he was in the mix.
Yeah, the funky Homo sapien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are like, all right, this is a pretty eclectic mix.
Mm.
So yeah, you bring great music up. It's so uplifting and also challenges us to face our moment in a really beautiful way. So yeah, really appreciate that. So big thanks, not just to Tyler Nelson, but big thanks also to Rusty Loon and love
He
all the
sends
work you're doing.
his gratitude.
And you know, this is the beginning, of course, of the Living Earth Community Project. Like you said, October 1st was kind of the official launch. So we have to have you back on at a certain point because yeah, we're just scratching the surface of all the amazing contributions you have to this kind of discourse, these ways of thinking and feeling and acting. So this is just the beginning, and a really fruitful one, I think. I had a great time talking to you, and you know, it's one of those things. You East Coast folks at Yale, sometimes people think I'm like living in New Haven. So like, oh, you work with the Yale Forum on Religion Ecology. Like, no, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. So work with you guys, but don't get to hang out with you nearly enough. So this was really, really a treat for me. And so yeah, we'll do it again. We'll do it again soon. Because yeah, just scratching the surface. So here's the thing I like to do that I think is maybe slightly annoying to guests. But I like to leave the last word for the guest. And so give us a word or a phrase. Sometimes one word is too cumbersome for people. And they're like, I can't, especially academics, ask them to do one word. and they're just like their heads explode. So you could do one word, you could do a phrase. Sometimes when I say a phrase, it turns into a run-on sentence.
Mm.
So whatever whatever it might be, a word, a phrase, or a run-on sentence. But I want to leave you with the last word to close us out from this amazing episode celebrating your life, your work, the amazing Living Earth Community Project. What's a word, a phrase, a sentence to take us out?
Mm. I appreciate you offering that space. What I would say is to you and to all the listeners of this show, I'm glad that you exist. We have such a beautiful, diverse, extraordinary community that spans across hemispheres and strata of this planet. And I just celebrate that you and the listeners are part of this community. Each one of us belongs to this. My own Christian tradition teaches that we are creatures among creatures inhabiting creation, beloved by a creator. And so that's where I am rooted, and I understand there are similarities where others are rooted. And so just recognizing that each one of us is a marvel, and that wherever people are in this very challenging time, socially, politically, economically, ecologically, that they would hear this message that they matter, they belong, they have value, and I hope someday to cross paths with them, just as you and I were able to cross paths today, Sam.